AI doesn't have to be just ask it a question, it gives you an answer. We can embrace it as something that can just open our horizon in so many different ways. Welcome to Get Unstuck On Target, the weekly podcast that offers senior leaders insights and strategies to not only lead with confidence and vision, but also to achieve groundbreaking results. I'm your host, Mike O'Neill. I coach top-level executives on the power of ethical leadership to forge teams to be as united as they are effective. In each episode, join me for insightful conversations with leaders just like you, providing practical advice to help you get unstuck and propel you and your company forward. Let's get started. Welcome to Get Unstuck On Target. I'm Mike O'Neill, an executive coach focused on helping C-suite leaders excel with vision, integrity, and excellence. Today, we're exploring a critical topic, AI and the next generation workforce. Joining me is Marlene Kreidler, a seasoned business executive turned professor. In this insightful episode, we'll discuss how the AI generation is reshaping workforce expectations, the ethical considerations in an AI-driven world, and strategies to embrace AI while preserving human leadership. As you listen, ask yourself, is your leadership ready for the AI revolution? Join us as we unlock insights to help you thrive in this new era of AI-powered business. Joining me is Marlene Kreidler. Marlene is a seasoned business executive with over 2 decades of experience in corporate development, human resources, and leadership development. Marlene has lent her expertise to diverse sectors, including healthcare, higher education, and manufacturing. She's a published author, an international speaker, and she currently serves as a professor at the School of Business for Southern Adventist University. Today, we're diving into AI and the next-gen workforce. Marlene will be our compass as we explore this uncharted territory. With her visionary approach to business and her genuine care for people, she's going to help us unpack the ethical challenges and opportunities that AI brings to tomorrow's workplace. Welcome, Marlene.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's really a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, I'm really looking forward for the next 30 minutes when you and I explore these very interesting topics.
You know, we can't do anything without seeing the expression AI. And what kind of caught my attention is that we have, as listeners, as viewers of this podcast, these are leaders. These are leaders who are hiring employees, and these employees represent multiple generations. But when we were talking about what could you talk about, when you mentioned this, I kind of lit up. Because what I'm realizing, and I would like you to elaborate on it, is that AI is something new to me, perhaps to you. It's still a bit of a novelty, but for those entering the workforce, they've been dealing with AI for a while, more in an academic setting. And this transition to the work setting, it raises so many questions. So give us a sense of what is it about the incoming generation and the ethics that go along with AI?
Yes, Mike, this has been all of a sudden, I would say probably within the last 30 days, that has really sparked my attention. You and I have been to so many workshops, seminars, have read a lot of literature about 5 different generations, several different generations currently in the workforce. And then I started meditating, what is the next generation? And I started digging deeper, and I found that there is a new generation of people that has been born already, people that were born after 2010, some other scholars say after 2013, and it's the alpha generation. And then how AI is revolutionizing our world. So I tried to put that together. And I said, well, the new generation, it shouldn't be called the alpha generation. It should be called the AI generation, just within me. need to be honest here and be very humble. As I research more, some other people have already coined it the AI generation. I go, oops. So then I wonder, why is it called the alpha generation? Well, the generation of college people right now that are going to be graduating is the Z. It's the last letter of the alphabet. So these researchers were coming up, what is the new generation is going to be? Oh, the first generation born in the 21st century. Let's go with alpha. So that's how they called it alpha. But then as they were doing their research, they also thought, this is the generation fully born. Oh, when they reach the workforce, AI is going to be fully embedded.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a lot of theory. But then I started to think, how is it going to affect them? And how do we need to prepare them for what's ahead? So that's what sparked my interest.
The timing is something that I didn't make real clear when I introduced you, and that is you have spent your career in the corporate world and has recently entered academia.
Correct.
And so you bring to the role in academia real practical thinking on that. So walk us through, what have you kind of learned thus far? What are the things that our listeners as leaders need to kind of be aware of with this incoming generation?
I'm going to approach it from two different dimensions. First, the workforce, because that's where pretty much all of us live. So in the workforce, something that organizations need is constantly data analytics. And we hear all the time universities advertising for MBA or master's degrees in analytics, where companies have now millions of data that they don't know what to do with it. And they need to know not only how to mine it, but also how to make sense of it. So in the workforce, that was a great need we had. Then I come to academia, where we need to plan 4, 5, 10 years in advance. What are the needs that are going to be there so that the current students, we prepare them for 4 years from their graduate? So then I realized, okay, if they were born, the alpha generation, if they were born in 2010, by the time they enter college, it's going to be about 2030, 6 years from now. AI is like it was computers or the internet many, many years ago. So what are we doing first as universities to prepare these future professionals? And second, what worries me the most is the ethical and moral dilemmas. Okay, so because technology, computers, artificial intelligence is going to be doing so much, what are the skills that we need to develop in those children right now that are going to grow and be professionals, that are going to be the leaders of organizations? So what is it that we need to instill in them now that we're on time?
Oh, you raised so many questions here. I want to try to keep it more practical because I kind of want to go down more of this academic for a bit, but let me stay kind of practical. And that is, you've pointed out that the folks who will be entering our workforces, AI is commonplace. What you're pointing out, though, is those who are in the education system right now, AI will be nothing new. It's going to dramatically change. And you made this reference to data and data analytics. And that is, we now have the capacity to analyze data in a way that we never could in the past. The folks who are coming into the workforce probably are very savvy on that type of thing. But you mentioned this ethics and the moral dilemmas. Tell us a little more about, from a workplace standpoint, what are these ethic and moral dilemmas?
Okay, so try to make it very real with my students, because there is always, you cannot use AI. Your work needs to be authentic. I say to them, use it, but when I ask you a question, you need to be able to have critical thinking skills, critical reasoning, and above all, know if this is morally right. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Computers is garbage in, garbage out. We know that. So if a computer and therefore an AI system has been programmed, do not hire this type of people. Do not hire people that are younger than this or older than that. Do not hire this, that, and the other. The machine is not going to know. It's always going to give you the hires that you program it to produce. So our professionals, especially working, they need to, in the workforce, they need to be able to say, but this is not right. Okay. And why is it not right? And diversity has hundreds of dimensions. Okay. And why is it not right? So then it's looking to the way it was programmed, the algorithms, all of that. So I say to them, can use AI? Be sure to use your critical thinking skills and to be able to make ethical and moral decisions. Is this the right way to treat people? Okay. Even if it said buy something black when you knew it needed to be something white because it was more cost effective or whatever, because it's what's best for the company, don't just trust what the machine said. And the other day, you and I were at a mastermind group.
Yes.
And one of the participants made me laugh because he gave me an example of AI. I hadn't thought of that, but I thought it was a great example. He said, Marlene, when you go to a bar and right there is a drunk. Because he's drunk, he's talking and saying everything he wants to say, and he doesn't stop talking. And some things are right, some things are wrong. But when you base your decisions on everything that the drunkard says, that's what you're doing with the computer, with AI. And the evidence shows that only 40% of the information that AI produces is correct. So that's what we need to teach our children. Learn how to think, learn how to be intuitive, learn how to do the things right because that's the right thing to do. So that's my concern.
Let me see if I'm understanding what you're raising things for us to be thinking about. And that is, for those who are preparing students for the future workforce, they need to be looking years in advance to prepare them. I heard that pretty loud and clear.
Yes.
But what I also heard is the nature of AI, machine learning, is that there is no real, quote, moral compass. You put information in, it just assumes, it builds on that. And if you go to that and ask that platform, whatever it might be, questions, what you're getting back is that which it's captured someplace else. It may or may not be ethically grounded. It may or may not have it won't have really any morality, if you would. But what I think I'm hearing you say is that in a college setting, you as a professor you're saying it's okay for you, the student, to use AI, but realize that you don't want to sacrifice critical thinking.
That is correct.
And that you need to be able to be mindful that what you're getting out may not have the qualities we're talking about. Let's talk about the workplace. You spend a long time in senior HR roles and other roles. For those folks coming into the workforce now, they know AI, but what should we as employers be mindful of? Not just for that generation, but for all of our employees. What might be some of the guardrails that we need to put up as leaders when it comes to the ethical challenges of AI? Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. And I think, again, I like to see things in multi-levels, in several dimensions. The the existing workforce, they need to be trained to learn to use the tools available right now, AI. And the same thing for the upcoming generation in the workplace, the Z generation. Employers in their resumes are looking for people that know how to use AI, especially for data analytics. What we haven't concentrated for many generations is, Mike, is this the right thing to do? Okay, generally we go, I scratch your back, you scratch my back, even though if I know that by scratching your back is not the right thing to do. So it's teaching both technology and ethical thinking skills, what I would say, at all levels, not just the upcoming generation. For the AI or alpha generation, one of my great discoveries was that the Annie E. Casey Foundation that concentrates on helping disadvantaged children and youth, they already got it. And I read a lot of information from it because they are already working with these children. But one company is not sufficient, and it has to spread like weeds. The same way AI is spreading, we need to spread also. And it's not just critical thinking, ethical thinking, moral thinking. It's develop all your talents. Okay. Because right now you see children and everybody engaged in their devices. Explore outside, be creative, explore the arts, the languages, so many other things, so that you are not just laser focused on something that might make you a little bit narrow-minded.
What I understood you to say in part is employers are hungry to find people who understand these platforms, but the real art is how do you prompt to get the answers you're looking for? What questions do you ask to get the answers that you get back? What I hear you say is that what we need to be mindful of as leaders is AI doesn't have to be just ask it a question, it gives you an answer. We can embrace it as something that can just open our horizon in so many different ways.
That's exactly right.
For those leading companies right now, they're in positions of leadership. They have played with ChatGPT. They probably have used it effectively, but the pace of change of this platform seems to be accelerating. The capacity is accelerating. I've had a few other guests speak to this, but from your standpoint, let's go back to your days when you are leading HR. What are you challenging the leaders in the organization to be doing when it comes to AI? How practically are they supposed to be embracing and not let this be intimidating?
I think it's by learning the capacity. And again, the easiest analogy is when computers were introduced and Microsoft Office and training employees how to use basic Microsoft Office skills. And then the internet, I remember reading resumes in the past, knows how to navigate the internet. People would put there in their resumes. That was an important skill. So we didn't grow up with it. So we need to see how is this new technology going to help me in my industry. It could be in healthcare. It could be in manufacturing, service. Service is great, huge, because 70% of the GDP in the US comes from service organizations. So is AI going to replace the majority of those jobs? It's something to think about. So what is our workforce going to do? That's when we as employers, we need to be creative and say, okay, I can have a computer answering this or responding to these, like an Alexa voice or whatever, but I'm still going to need another human being to do these other tasks that are extremely important. So it's going to be a shift in our thinking and in our doing also. So how can we become more efficient, more effective, more productive, more profitable? At the same time, being very mindful of the individual needs of the people that might be displaced, but could be retrained.
I've had it described to me that AI is going to eliminate certain roles that are necessary out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to displace people if we're willing to use people in new ways. And I think what you're challenging us to be mindful of is that those new ways might require training in new skills, exposing them to things they might not otherwise, such that those things that AI can do and do well, that's probably exactly what's going to happen. But what we need to do is be mindful that our employees are not just organic AI. They are living, breathing, thinking, loving people. And if we're going to embrace what they can bring to the organization, we're going to have to think creatively. Did I hear that close to being right?
That is correct. And you said it so beautifully, Michael. A human being has so many, again, the word comes to me, dimensions. Machines don't have emotions. People have, and we need to be very mindful to cater to those emotions. During the pandemic, we went into remote working, telecommuting, and telesocializing, etc. And we see now all the side effects that it had because people did not have a social and emotional context. We need to be very mindful of that part of our employees, the emotional context. So if a robot in a manufacturing company took over your job, well, we're going to need somebody that knows how to program the robot and how to do maintenance to the robot. So I'm going to retrain you to do those tasks. So now you're not going to be working with your hands. You're going to be working with your mind. And me as an employer, I'm going to take care of your family needs, of your personal needs that affects your family. So it has a lot of, it's a domino effect.
We have to be looking forward as to what these implications might be. That's your challenge to us as viewers and listeners. Be mindful of those who are entering the workforce, but be looking forward to what those implications might be. And you've kind of pointed out some things that we need to be mindful of. Let me invite you to look back just for a moment. Can you think of an example where perhaps you or a client got stuck? And when that happened, what did it take to get unstuck?
There have been so many situations when I felt stuck. But the most recent one is when I started June 1 teaching at the university here. I had luckily 2 months to prepare for my classes, and I'm a planner. I planned everything. So when new faculty orientation came, I went so proudly with all my work plans. I showed it to the dean, and I, so proud of what I had accomplished. And she said, Marlene, don't be surprised if you have to change it. So I go to the new faculty training, and they showed us a chart that we needed to create. In other words, all the planning that I had done for the whole semester, it needed to be done in pictures, like a diagram. And it has a name that I forget the name, what it is, that type of diagram. I go, where do I go from here? And so I was right there, and I wasn't the only one. The other professors were the same. And then I heard somebody, hey, I just went to ChatGPT and I discovered this. What did you do? I took this, that, and the other. And it was, show me how to do this, that, and the other, but you have to be specific. And it was incredible what ChatGPT came with. And then I kept digging and digging and digging. And then somebody else, you can even do pictures. Okay. So, show me a picture of getting unstuck in a work problem. And one picture. No, I don't like this picture. So I didn't use it, but it unstuck me. Okay. It opened my mind. Initially, I did copy some references, basically to pass, because we needed to be done by Friday. But yeah. So, but then I go to my office and I start refining it based on my thinking. But yeah, it helped me get unstuck. But the follow-up is you have to analyze it. Okay. You have to analyze it, because great ideas, but at the end, I realized they didn't really match what I had been thinking. So, but yeah, that was an aha moment, and I keep learning. So it's, when I get stuck, it's a little bit difficult because I think so much. So I have to read a lot and start writing. And then the aha moment comes after I start writing and reviewing.
I don't know if I've told you this, Marlene, but I always knew you in your professional role. In my interactions with you, when you said that I've accepted a teaching position at the university, it struck me as that's a perfect use of kind of who you are, how you think. You think at a deep level. That kind of came through pretty loud and clear in this conversation. And that is, you are challenging us to don't just react, be thinking about what's going on, be mindful of those folks who are entering our workforce, those who are here, and how do we embrace this fast changing technology? How do we use it in a way that takes into consideration that AI doesn't have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not designed for that. But then you gave us an example by which you were so, quote, prepared with your lesson plans. It was clear to you, but when you were told, no, that's not acceptable, you need to present it in this total different way, that using AI to kind of help bridge. How do I take what I do understand and put it in a new format that speaks to the needs of the university? But as you learned that, you found how powerful it can actually be. As I kind of reflect on our conversation, we've covered a number of things. What do you want our viewers and listeners to have as their takeaways, Marlene?
I think that in the midst of technology advances, it takes me back to my days in college, and I cannot remember right now the name of the book that we read. The higher the technology, the more touch we need. Mm-hmm. So always be mindful of the people around you and their human needs. Be authentic in the sense that you want to be treated. You want to treat people the same way you want to be treated, the golden rule. Making decisions not because that's what the university needs from me in today's, but because this is the right thing to do. Okay, yeah, right now You have a crisis, but then you go, you meditate, you fix your mistakes. So that's where authenticity comes, or integrity. And just start thinking, how does my decision affect the people around me? I think that's the most important thing. And the children around me, the young people around me, how do I want to encourage them to also be ethical and moral leaders? How do they incorporate it in their daily lives? And it's not easy. The act of being transparent, it makes yourself very vulnerable, but it's okay to be vulnerable. This last week, my students had a test, an exam. And prior to the exam, I gave them a QR code to rate me. So I know how well they rated 167, 90, 95 different ways. So the next class after the exam, I showed them how they rated me. And I had a colleague who said, Marlene, you're crazy. You're making yourself very vulnerable. And I said, if they don't rate me, how do I know that I'm meeting their needs and expectations? And I asked them. So the act of transparency, of authenticity, makes you very vulnerable. But at the same time, that's the only way you can grow and you can help other people grow. So in other words, it's not just teaching and preaching. It's also being good role models to the generations that are coming.
That's very well said. Before we wrap up, I do have a question for the leaders in the audience. And that is, why do people choose to follow your lead? Is it out of obligation, or do they truly believe in your vision? Leadership thrives on clarity and confidence. It's not just about holding authority. It's about creating practical solutions that drive real bottom line results. As an executive coach, I help leaders achieve bottom line impact and become inspiring people that they want to follow. So at Bench Builders, which is my business, we provide personalized strategies using Fortune 500 insights to drive significant progress towards your goals. So I invite you to lead in a way that draws people to your vision, not because they have to, but because they are inspired to. If you want to learn more, let me invite you. Visit bench-builders.com and let's see how we can support your leadership journey. Marlene, your insights have been so valuable. Thank you for joining us.
And Mike, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I really enjoyed it. And I would like to continue the conversations whenever we have the chance.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing just that. Now, for folks who have heard you and said, gosh, I want to engage further, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can either connect through LinkedIn. If you can share my full name, my email is Marlene, Marlene, Kreidler, Kreidler @gmail.com. I would welcome your comments either via LinkedIn. We're going to posting this podcast also there. I would really like to hear your feedback, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I think it's been our listeners' pleasure. We will, in fact, post that information in the show notes. So, Marlene, thank you. And I also want to kind of say a big thank you to the subscribers for tuning in. And I hope today's discussion provided you with some insights that will help you get unstuck and on target. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Get Unstuck and On Target. I hope you've gained insights to help you lead with confidence and drive your organization forward. Remember, at Bench Builders, we're committed to your success, your leadership excellence, and your strategic growth. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, please leave a review, rate, and subscribe to keep up with our latest episodes. This show really grows when listeners like you share it with others. Who do you know who needs to hear what we talked about today? Until next time, I encourage you to stay focused on the target and continue to break new ground on your leadership path.